Hello everybody, Bizzare here once again, and I'm coming back to you guys with another toy review just to wrap out my little coverage on Bullmark for the standard sizes, at least for this recent period. Now, yeah, that's about it. So let's get on with the review. And based on what the title is, you know exactly what we're gonna see. We're gonna see the Bullmark, or the B Club reissue of Sasahiller from God knows when, because I got this guy loose. No packaging of any sort, so let's just get on to the detail. If there's any monster that's qualified to tell you to feel shame, it's this thing. Sasahiller's got a fairly good sculpt, but unfortunately he is one of the biggest victims, I would have to say, for the Bullmark stylization curse. Of course, there's a little bit of paint scuffing on this thing, just because I got it used and loose for a very cheap price. But there's a lot. But he's got two mouths for some reason. In the original suit, he did not have these four teeth down here, and his eyes were actually domes and not cut out with pupils in them. So that's a little bit unfortunate, and his actual mouth should actually be down here, and that's captured fairly well on the toy itself. Other than that, the rest of the toy is surprisingly very accurate. Just like Dengar from before, this thing has very few parts of it that are really stylized beyond what the original suit was. It's a very colorful toy that doesn't really represent what the character was like in the show itself. On the bottom of the feet, since it's yellow vinyl, it says Sasahiller and Bullmark with Bandai as a signature of reproduction. Now, in terms of colors, this is completely wrong, as most of you might be able to tell. This is definitely not what Sasahiller looks like. Sasahiller is actually completely white, so make of that what you will. The entire figure comes molded in yellow, which I guess is close enough to white, but the face is smashed with red, and the body is smashed with blue, and the masking of this thing is not exactly the best, which is why we have a stream of yellow down here. And with this detail look out of the way, let's get on to the articulation, which is not great. In terms of articulation, Sasahiller has the exact same joints as most Alien or Ultraman figures of the time, so say like Mephiles 2, but the problem with Sasahiller here is that his joints don't do a lot. First off, the best joint on the figure is, of course, the head, which rotates a full 360 degrees with zero issues. I don't know why you would have him rotate around like that, considering he doesn't even look around in the show, but whatever. His arms do a good job of spinning around, and you can get him to point at his crotch or have him trying to give you a hug. Either way, the arms work out very well for what they are meant to be. The worst joints on this figure are, of course, the legs. The legs both rotate about 360 degrees if they were not in the way of each other. And because of the way my figure was made, he has to stand like this because the feet are actually not balanced. So he's always on the tippy toes, about to lean forward. Which kind of sucks because it's impossible to display this figure. And that is really much it for articulation. While you can get characters like Mephiles 2 to actually sit down because his legs are actually cut the right way, where they're actually kind of useful, where they can sit out like that. Sasahiller does not have that luxury, so he is basically using those legs as the modern Banpresto figures would, which is for strictly balance, and that's pretty useless. Finally, let's get on to size comparison. Now, to make it so that I don't sound like I'm just hating on this figure for no reason, even though this is my first B Club, there is a lot of good to this thing. It scales up fairly well with Dengar here, because they were from the same year. Dengar is shorter than Sasahiller, but he does form an imposing looking threat to him. Of course, since this is a Return of Ultraman type figure, Ultraman Taro characters do not scale up 100% well next to it, but I guess it's worth a shot. Let's bring in the B Club Cosmo Liquid, one of my favorite figures nowadays. And of course, Cosmo Liquid, despite being a monster with a better articulation set, towers over the monster that can't stand. Fixing him back up, I'm going to fix the desk he smashed, the part of the desk he smashed later. Let's get on to some Bandai figures. First of all, let's try an Ultra Monster Series release, and because I am feeling very mean today, we're gonna shove in somebody who has no business of being here. We're gonna shove in a Super COV because of, you know, good measure, and of course it looks terrible. I have a Monsarger on my desk too, and let's bring him in as well. And of course, it does not look all that great either. Because Bandai figures are 6 inches and these guys are 8 inches. What can you expect? Next up, let us attempt the Ultra Hero Series figure. Jack. Nope. Nope, this doesn't work. Jack should be about at least this big to make it even, you know, remotely viable as a pair up of any sort. And finally, because why not, let's get out the Ultra Act Jack, and of course, if the Bandai UHS didn't fare any better, how do you expect this thing to fare any better? It's because Dengar was pretty much the best in terms of scaling here. I'm guessing that the rest of them will just kind of have to suck it up and deal with it. So in the end, what do I think of this figure? Not very highly, I can tell you that much. Unlike some of the other Bullmark figures that I own, this one is quite the disappointment, and I can only wholeheartedly give it a 3 out of 5. The figure itself looks actually kind of ugly. I think the colors are like bad. Like, you know, we have inaccurate figures. We have had inaccurate figures before. We have Dengar, but Dengar at least looks slightly appealing, you know, if not just for the fact that he's the Christmas shade with some sort of earthly tone to it. But yeah, I can't stand the yellow on the Sasahiller. I can't stand the blue. I can't stand the red. I don't necessarily think this is a great buy. Now, if you like Sasahiller, I guess this is the best option you can go for outside of an X Plus or a CCP or whatever, and those are, you know, out the wall expensive. So you might as well just stick to a Bullmark. I mean, I got this guy for like 20 bucks, so it's definitely a very viable and rather cheap way of getting a Sasahiller if you really want it. But if you don't care for the character design or you're not a specific fan of this thing, I'd say you're better off skipping it altogether. It's not that great of a toy, and I'm only giving it a 3 out of 5 because I actually think it's kind of okay in some areas, but those areas do not make up for the fact that this figure is just kind of bad. But yeah, that's been the review. The overall score, again, it's 3 out of 5. This is Yan and I'll see you guys next time.